Florence, the birthplace of the Renaissance and gelato. Both are equally important if you ask me. But if you only have 12 hours to spend in all of Florence, how should you prioritize your time? Should you go and see the Duomo or Michelangelo's David? Should you go on a stroll on one of the oldest bridges in Europe? Or should you just take back and sit and enjoy your avocado? Well, good news, you can do all of this and see the Tower of Pisa. That's right, 2 cities in 12 hours. Hi, I'm Kendall, your travel accessibility advisor, and in this video, I'm going to show you how you can maximize 12-hour day in Florence. And if you're someone with a mobility impairment, I'll teach you some tricks on how you can potentially save money at these attractions. First off, if you're going to be arriving to Florence by ship, you're most likely going to be docked at the Livorno port, which is about an hour and 20-minute drive from Florence and a 30-minute drive from Pisa. To maximize my time, and so my family and I, we booked a taxi the second we got off the ship. We literally just walked over to the line of taxis and started negotiating some deals. For the entire day, the taxi cost us $500, and that's actually a pretty good deal if you compare this to the cruise packages, where the packages of a trip to Pisa or Florence are sometimes $200 or $300 a person. Now, for those of you who are power wheelchair users, I will leave some companies down below that do offer services and lifts for power wheelchair users. First things first, of course, we need to get breakfast, because no trip to Italy, especially Florence, would be complete without a cappuccino. So you're going to ask your driver to drop you off at the Piazza del Duomo. And on the north side, you'll see this restaurant has everything you could possibly think of and more: pastries, savory foods, and of course, coffee, especially espresso. And what I like about this restaurant in particular is that it's both wheelchair accessible on the outside, inside, and has a wheelchair accessible bathroom. Throughout Europe, not just Italy, a lot of restaurants have seating outside, but accessible seating inside is more difficult. And it's even more rare to find an accessible bathroom. That's why I recommend the app Accessilu, which tells you the nearest accessible bathroom in your location, and it works in the European countries. Once you are done with breakfast, you're going to go across the street, and there you are at the Santa Maria del Fiore, or what is commonly known as the Duomo. And the great news is you don't have to wait in line like everyone else if you're someone with a disability. And if you're someone with a mobility impairment or has issues with the stairs, you're going to go past the main entrance to the right, and you're going to go past the square tower, and you will see a door on the side that is for the mobility impaired. You're going to knock or ring on that doorbell, and an attendant will happily open the door for you. And there you are. You just saved your family an hour or two waiting in line. You're already in the Duomo. Now, the main floor of the Duomo is free for everyone. So you can enjoy the candles, the stained glass, and the early artworks of the Renaissance era. The dome itself is painted, and the painting is called The Last Judgment, showing the 7 layers of hell and also heaven above it, creating that juxtaposition. And it's a really famous piece of art, and not just the artwork, but the actual dome structure, how it was built. It was built using a special type of brick that did not require any scaffolding, which was revolutionary during the 14th century. It was the first building of its kind. I believe that this church actually went 100 years without the dome because the architects weren't sure on how they were safely going to place the dome. So when the dome was actually put on the church in 1436, that was a cause for celebration. Now, while the paintings inside the Duomo are beautiful, the main tourist attractions mainly climbing into the tower to see the aerial view of Florence and seeing the 5th century church that is underneath the Duomo. Both of those activities require climbing hundreds of stairs and are not wheelchair accessible. And so because the main tourist attractions are not accessible to me, I think that this stop, while worth a little bit of your time, is only worth about 10-15 minutes as a wheelchair user myself. For me, there's really no need to explore more than that. What is worth every minute, in my opinion, though, is the Accademia Gallery, which is a 7-minute walk north of the Duomo. The Accademia Gallery is home to Michelangelo's David, standing 17 feet tall and being carved from a single block of marble. Michelangelo's David is considered one of the masterpieces that defines the Renaissance. Now, book your ticket in advance, and I actually mean a lot in advance. And while people with disabilities and their caregivers might get into the museum for free, you want to ensure that other members of your party also have the opportunity to come in. When we headed towards the Accademia Gallery, we originally had our time slot to be 1 to 3 p.m. But since we were done with the Duomo so early, we thought maybe we could squeak in with an earlier time slot. And sure enough, we were able to get in the Accademia Gallery at 11 a.m. Now, for those of you who do not know, this is most likely because of the European Union's accessibility policies that have been recently enforced, I think officially in 2024. And so essentially what the European Disability Card is that it's an acknowledgement that there are physical barriers that are placed upon people with disabilities, and as a result, there's going to be some accommodations to help mitigate or relieve those physical barriers. And that is priority entry and sometimes free tickets. And do you want to know what's also free? Hitting that like and subscribe button. You see what I did there? And if you're a US citizen, I would recommend you bring your blue parking placard or a doctor's note that explains a little bit about your disability in a generic sense. And it would be great if that doctor's note can also be in the same language as the country that you are traveling to. And I do want to note that I do have a very visible disability when I'm in my wheelchair, so if you are someone that has an invisible disability and do not have a disability card with you, you might have a different experience. But from my experience as a wheelchair user who is not part of the European Union, I've never had an issue with getting priority entry or free entry into a place like a museum. Additionally, 2 tickets were reimbursed to us. The Accademia Gallery has amazing artwork on display, ranging from sculptures to paintings to physical instruments, and you can really see the progression of the Renaissance era style through this museum. Artworks from the 13th, 14th, and 15th century can be seen here, and in a way, it is essentially a time capsule of the Renaissance. Of course, the big draw is the statue of David, as it stands 17 feet tall. It resembles David from the Judeo-Christian story of David and Goliath, where a humble shepherd boy slingshots Goliath, a giant that has been terrorizing his town, and against all odds, David wins. And ironically, the statue was informally called the Giant when it was unveiled to the public in 1504. Michelangelo started when he was just 26, and at that time he was already a renowned artist. So the anticipation for his sculpture was highly anticipated. And what makes this depiction of David different from the rest is that this depiction of David was the first time to focus on David before he fought Goliath. You can see on his face, he is both focused and concerned. What is also different about this depiction of David is that his head and his hand size are larger and disproportionate to the rest of his body. This could be either because he was originally supposed to be placed on top or close to the top of the Church of Florence, or it could be a symbolic, artistic expression of David being in concentration and really thinking of his strategy when it comes to slaying the Goliath with his slingshot. Also, random note, David's pupils are shaped like hearts. Didn't know where to put that in the script, so it's just right here. So fun fact, pupils are shaped like hearts. So when the statue of David was revealed, it was then decided that the statue was too precious to place on high on the church where people could barely see the details of the work, and instead it should be placed in the Piazza della Signora. And for a while it remained there until the 1800s, where in 1873 it was then moved to the Accademia Gallery so that it could avoid being damaged. There is a hole in the center of the room where David stands, and it's there to mimic what the statue of David was originally supposed to look like outdoors. But not to worry, you can see a replica of the statue of David in the Piazza della Signora, where the original once stood. It's definitely not the same impact, but I mean, I guess it's nice to have a replica of the statue in that it is recognizing the statue's original origins. But it's definitely worth going to the Accademia Gallery to see the real thing, especially if you're from out of the country. Next on our list was to go to another coffee shop, but not just any coffee shop, the coffee shop. Yes, I'm talking about the Vivoli Artisan ice cream shop. This shop is almost 100 years old, and they create handmade ice cream with crafted espresso. Now, the place itself is very tight and cramped, and the line can be up to an hour long. The place isn't wheelchair accessible. I was able to maneuver around and push my wheelchair and be able to take a seat once I was inside the coffee shop, but it's not it's not wheelchair friendly, but when there's a will, there's a way. Now, if you're more of a full-time wheelchair user, I'd still say that it's worth getting someone from your party to get you a drink. And while they're doing that, you can go to the marketplace that has all these vendors selling sandwiches, cannolis, and all that good Italian food, which is of course on the floor. And unlike the Vivoli ice cream shop, there's no doors to get in. So while a member of your party's doing that, you can feel free to literally go right over and take a left or right turn, and you'll literally see this gigantic market. Lastly, you're going to want to end your trip at the Ponte Vecchio, which is a bridge that has lasted since 1333, I believe, and it is one of the most iconic bridges in all of Europe. The Ponte Vecchio has been in existence since 996. That's right, you heard me. 996. The current version that is standing that we see today has been remodeled and rebuilt since 1345, and that's because the bridge has gone through and survived a lot of flooding, but it is still marvelous to look at because 500 years ago, this is where all the goldsmiths and jewelers would be selling their merchandising products, basically. This is where the people of Florence used to gather food and get their goods from before returning to home. And this bridge is one of the most photographed bridges in all of Europe. A beautiful time to watch and see is also during sunrise and sunset, when the arches catch the sun's rays and it looks like the sun is spilling through the bridge. It's so beautiful. After this stop, you're going to want to head back to Piazza del Duomo, where your driver can pick you up. Now, if you have more time in your schedule, you can also plan a visit to the Tower of Pisa, which is in the town of Pisa, and that's a 30-minute detour from the port of Livorno. I would say that the Tower of Pisa, if you've never seen it before, it's definitely worth going to and seeing it and taking a picture. But you know, it's literally a leaning tower in a random city. And I mean, I know that it has a lot of historical importance. That's where Galileo discovered gravity. I don't know, don't go at me. I didn't major in any of the sciences, as you could probably tell. What famous experiment took place at the Tower of Pisa? Oh, I got it right! I got it right. That's where. Yeah, Galileo Galilei dropped 2 cannonballs of different masses from the Leaning Tower of Pisa to prove that gravity causes objects to fall at the same rate regardless of their weight. Okay, so it wasn't the discoverer of gravity, but rather the discovery that when objects of different masses are dropped, they are dropping at the same rate, regardless of their weight. I'm way too happy for myself. It should only be about like 20-25 minutes total to visit and see the Tower of Pisa, and I'm sure that there's lovely shops and restaurants there as well. I just preferred to spend my time in Florence, but if you want to spend more time in Pisa, you can adjust this itinerary in any way you see fit. And I'm curious to know, what is your favorite gelato flavor? Mine's always been dulce de leche, but let me know down in the comments below. And that is it for this video. Thank you so much for staying till the very end. It really means a lot to me. If you enjoyed this video, chances are you're going to like the Malaga video that I did, where I spent a day in Malaga, or my St. Peter's Basilica video. I hope to see you soon, but until next time, enjoy your journey, traveler.